Hello and welcome to Vegan Cafe 21. Today we are making quick and easy sesame fudge using simple ingredients. Now this fudge can easily be converted into a sesame brittle just by spending a few extra seconds while making your syrup. So let's get to it. To make our fudge, we are using 1 1/4 cups of hulled sesame seeds or white sesame seeds. By weight, they are 5 ounces. 8 ounces of jaggery, half a teaspoon of baking powder. This is completely optional, but it does give a very different texture to your brittle. 1 tablespoon of coconut oil. We are going to use some in our syrup and also use a little bit out of it to grease our work surface. Over on the stove top, I have a pan. I'm going to turn the heat on under it, and we are going to lightly toast our sesame seeds. Now remember, they have a lot of oil in them, so you want to toast them on low heat. But be very mindful, they go very quickly. Keep moving them around. They will emit very nice aroma to indicate that they're ready and toasted. All right, our sesame seeds are nicely toasted. It took me a total of 3 minutes to get them to this state. You can see they have just started to change their color ever so slightly. We are going to transfer these sesame seeds onto a plate. Now we are going to allow them to cool completely before we take them to our grinder jar to coarse grind them. Otherwise, when you go to grind, you'll turn them into a mush because they will release all the oil. So our sesame seeds have cooled down completely. I'm going to transfer them to our grinder jar. Now all it's going to need is just a couple of pulses. You don't need to run your blender. If you run it for too long, it will release oils and it'll be hard for you to work with. In my grinder, it'll take only 2 pulses. That's all. Now in the same pan where we roasted our sesame seeds, we are going to prepare our jaggery syrup. We are going to just break these pieces into smaller bits. Done. Move it around. We will add our coconut oil. Just save enough to grease our work surface. Chopping it into pieces helps it melt really quickly. As you can see, we didn't add any water to this. The heat kind of does its thing. Keep your flame between low and medium. You may have to keep adjusting it. You don't want it to start burning on the sides before all the pieces melt. Now once your syrup starts foaming all over the surface, you know the syrup is very close to being done. Turn the heat low at this point and I'll show you how you can test your syrup to see if it's ready right where you need to be. In this bowl I have water. This is room temperature water. I'm going to take some syrup in my spoon and drop it in this bowl. Now it's still a little softer than I would like for it to be, so I'm going to let it go for another 30 seconds. Time for a second test. Now I think we are where we need to be. See, it's already solidified. You can hear it when you drop it on the surface. So I'm going to now bring our sesame to this pot, but before we do that, we are going to add our baking powder to our sesame seeds. Just shake it around to incorporate it and add this mixture to our syrup. Heat is on the lowest setting at this point. Now if you want to keep it as a fudge, now is the time to transfer it to your parchment paper or a greased cookie sheet. If you want to make it into a brittle, just give it 15-20 seconds and then you transfer it to your sheet. I'm going to bring it to the sheet now and then proceed. I've turned the heat off. Okay, I have lined my board with parchment paper and applied our coconut oil on it. Cover it with the parchment paper and use my rolling pin to roll it to the desired thickness. Just give it a couple of minutes to settle down before you start peeling the paper off. Let's see if it's allowing this without sticking. Yes. Just grease the edges of whichever cutter you desire to use. You can make some big ones if you prefer. We can remove the excess. We can also use a knife if you don't want to incur any wastage. You don't want to wait till it cools down to do this part, because then it's going to become a little challenging to cut the desired shapes. You can wait for it to cool down a little bit before you brush these trimmings aside. I want to cut little diamonds, so I'm going to do this. You can use a ruler to guide you, or you can just eyeball the shape. It really doesn't matter as long as you're happy with your creation. These are kind of sesame cookies, if you will. Let's move our pretty shapes onto the side. Soft and chewy at this point. And now we are going to remove these pieces. Now, didn't cut them through, but they will come apart very easily once they dry. If you want a brittle, you can let your syrup go just a few more seconds before adding your sesame to it, or even after you add your crushed sesame, you can cook it just a few seconds, maybe 40-45 seconds longer with the sesame in the syrup, and then transfer to the parchment lined work surface. I feel like this texture is more enjoyable and not as hard to chew, easier on our teeth. But let me break one and show you. More on the fudgy side of things. There you have it, our quick and easy sesame fudge or sesame brittle made with simple ingredients in no time. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. Please do give it a try. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you again soon with more vegan favorites.